Have you ever heard of a man so legendary his story sounds like it was ripped from the pages of mythology? A man whose strength defied belief and whose roar could shatter the will of his enemies. Today, we're diving deep into the chronicles of history to uncover the tale of a real-life titan, a man simply known as Josh. This isn't just a story. It's the legend of a hero who shaped a nation. The year is 1286. In an era where the average man stood much shorter, a 20-year-old named Josh towered over his peers at a staggering 6 feet tall. But it wasn't just his height that made him stand out. He was a mountain of a man with muscles forged in the crucible of hard living and relentless training. Imagine this. Josh could sprint at full speed, carrying a full-grown man on each shoulder for a solid mile, all while laughing and not even breaking a sweat. It was a sight that would make even the most seasoned warriors question what they were seeing. And his voice. Oh, his war cry was a weapon in itself. It was said to be so powerful, so earth-shatteringly loud, that it could deafen a man from half a mile away. It was a sound that struck primal fear into the hearts of his foes before a single sword was even drawn. This walking colossus, with his dark brown hair and piercing deep blue eyes, was a low-ranking officer in the Army of England. He was loyal, he was powerful, but his destiny was far greater than anyone could have imagined. For long months, Josh's platoon had been on the march. Exhausted, their bodies aching and their supplies dwindling, they finally made camp on the quiet banks of a river, a place we now know as the city of Bristol. As the weary soldiers fell into a deep sleep under the stars, a shadow glided across the water. A Viking longboat, silent and deadly, pulled ashore, its crew intent on a swift and brutal raid. The camp was oblivious, lost in dreams of home and hearth. But not Josh. His senses, honed by countless days in the wild, picked up the subtle sound of a paddle dipping into the water, the soft crunch of a boot on the riverbank. His eyes snapped open. With a roar that shook the very ground, he raised the alarm, rousing his sleeping comrades from their slumber. The quiet camp instantly erupted into a chaotic symphony of clashing steel and desperate cries. The battle was ferocious and bloody. The Vikings were ruthless, skilled raiders, and the English soldiers, caught by surprise, fought with desperate courage. Josh was a whirlwind of destruction in the heart of the melee. His strength was inhuman. He moved through the enemy ranks like a force of nature, his every swing a death sentence. But despite his godlike power, he was only one man. The Vikings were numerous and merciless. When the sun's first rays finally broke through the morning mist, a grim silence fell over the battlefield. The ground was littered with the fallen, both friend and foe. And amidst the carnage, only one man was left standing. Josh. He stood alone, breathing heavily, surrounded by the devastating cost of survival. His entire platoon was gone. The weight of that loss, the solitude of being the sole survivor, settled upon him like a shroud. But grief would have to wait. England was still vulnerable. Fueled by a burning need for vengeance and a deep-seated sense of duty, Josh knew he couldn't stand idle. He set out, a lone giant on a mission. He traveled the countryside, his story of the brutal riverside ambush preceding him. He found other scattered groups of soldiers, displaced men, and brave volunteers who were drawn to his incredible presence and the fire in his eyes. He gathered a small, determined force, a band of brothers united by a common purpose, to protect their home. Looking at the captured Viking longboat, a radical idea sparked in Josh's mind. Why wait for the enemy to come to them on land? Why not meet them on the very waters they used as their highway for invasion? This was a revolutionary concept. Josh and his newfound men boarded the longboat not as raiders, but as protectors. They sailed directly to the King of England, presenting him with this captured vessel and a bold, unprecedented plan. The king, impressed by Josh's audacity, his strategic thinking, and the sheer force of his will, saw the genius in the idea. In that moment, the seed of a new kind of warfare was planted. The very first English navy was born, and there was only one man fit to lead it. Josh. He was given command, tasked with patrolling the coastlines and seeing off England's invaders before they could ever set foot on shore. For the next 15 years, Admiral Josh became a legend of the seas. His name was a prayer on the lips of English sailors and a curse whispered by would-be conquerors. His fleet, initially just a handful of captured ships, grew into a formidable force. They didn't just fight, they were a lifeline for the kingdom. Under Josh's command, the Navy ran crucial supplies of food and fresh water around the UK, connecting and sustaining the realm in a way that had never been done before. He was no longer just a soldier, he was the guardian of the island nation. After a decade and a half of relentless service, the seas grew quieter. The constant threat of invasion had subsided, thanks in large part to the navy he had built. Josh, now a man in his late 30s, finally allowed himself a moment of peace. He stepped down from his command, leaving behind a legacy that would protect England for centuries to come. He settled down, found love, and started a family. The fearsome warrior became a loving husband and a doting father. The man whose roar could deafen armies now used his voice to tell bedtime stories. The hands that had wielded weapons of war now gently held his children. For a time, he knew a peace he had fought so long and hard to give to others. He had finally found his own quiet harbor, but the tides of fate are relentless. War once again loomed on the horizon, and England needed its greatest hero one last time. The call went out, and Josh, though older, did not hesitate. The protector of the realm answered. He led the fleet into what would be his final, most epic battle. He fought with the same fire and strength that had defined him as a young man, inspiring all who fought alongside him. He secured the victory. England was safe once more. But this time, the triumph came at the ultimate price. The legend had won his final battle, but he would not be returning home. Mortally wounded, Josh's life ebbed away on the deck of his flagship, the sea that he had commanded for so long, rocking him gently. In a solemn ceremony befitting a king, his body was committed to the deep. The legend was laid to rest at sea, returning to the very waters he had tamed and made his own. Josh's story may not be in every history book, but his spirit lives on in the heart of the Royal Navy and in the soul of the nation he fought so tirelessly to protect. He was a man, a hero, a legend. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey into the past. If you enjoyed the story of the mighty Josh, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of legendary figures from history. Let me know in the comments what other legends you'd like to see uncovered. Until next time, stay curious.